All right, good morning, first graders. So we are going to be looking at pushing on air, okay? And some of the tools we're going to use are syringes that you can pull up and you can push, okay? I accidentally got this one when I went in to get my materials, so there's one part of this investigation that we won't be able to observe, but I will let you know exactly what will happen if we were to do that portion of the investigation, okay? The other tool is this little flexible tube, and this is going to help us to investigate how air behaves in different situations, okay? So what we're going to do in our focus question that I will put to the side that I do want you to try to answer is, what happens to air when it is pushed into a smaller space? Okay? So what happens to air when it is pushed into a smaller space? So how we're going to investigate that is, we're going to push these two together. I'm going to fill one side up with air, and we're going to push it into this smaller space and this space, because this is going to be all the way down, and see what happens to it. So the two syringes can be fitted on one tube. Okay? So let's see here. I'm going to hold this one, and you're going to observe what happens. See, look at what happens when I push the air out of this tube and into that one. It just moves the top of the syringe because it has to push that out of the way so that the air has somewhere to go. So I'll try it one more time. See, watch. It just pushes it because I'm pushing that air through and it's going up into this space. Now, this would be better if you guys were able to use it, but you'll get to kind of watch me do it. I'm going to see what happens when I push on both plungers. So I'm going to do it halfway, and I'm going to try to push on both and see what happens. It's hard. And then look, it just pushes it back out. So you can close it a little bit, but then there comes a point when you can't, and it's kind of like, it's called an air tug of war. Now, here's the portion of the investigation that would be super cool if I had the correct syringes. So if I were to push this really hard and I didn't have that screw there, the top of the actual other plunger would actually fly out of there. So it's called the pop-off. Launching the plunger with air pressure, and it doesn't stay in the smaller space, it pushes the plunger out. So it would be like a rocket. Okay, so I'm kind of upset that I didn't grab the correct ones, but we kind of have to deal with what we got during these times, right? So air wrestling sure puts a lot of pressure on the air syringes, okay? So when I'm doing this, there's a lot of pressure within these, and the air is pushing, and I can't even do it because it's so hard. So there's a lot of pressure. So pressure is when it's pushing on something and you can actually feel it, it's pushing back. That's the pressure. And you can compress the air into one of the syringes. So compressing is pushing that air, compressing is making it smaller, right, into the next one, okay? And what might happen if you put too much pressure on the plunger? If you did it really fast, this side would fly out. It flies right. If you see how fast it is, could you imagine if it wasn't attached and it could just fly out? So what is happening to the air in the syringe system? So when I'm doing this is a system because there's multiple parts working together. This is a part, the plunger, the actual syringe part, the tubing, and the other syringe and the other plunger. Those are actually, it's a system all working together to do one thing, which is push air back and forth. Okay, so what's happening inside the syringe system? The plunger pushes the air into the other syringe. So this is the plunger. We're pushing the air into the other syringe. And we can do the same thing with this one. We're going to push the air into the other syringe. The air doesn't really go anywhere outside. It just gets pushed into the other syringe. Okay? Is there more than one air system now with compressed air? Hold on. Okay, so the amount of air in the system doesn't change, which is kind of what I said, right? It stays the same all the time. No air can get out of the system and no new air can get in. What happens is the air is getting pushed into a smaller space, which is this, which causes the plunger to move back out. When all the air is pushed into one syringe, we say it is compressed. Compressed air pushes back with pressure. This air pressure can push the plunger back out when we release it. So let's say, okay, I'm gonna hold it. Okay, I'm compressing the air, okay? But watch what happens. So I'm gonna hold this. We're gonna do it again. And I want you to watch what happens to this, because I'm holding it down here. I'm gonna push it as far as I can push it, right? So I see what happens? It just goes back out. So I'm compressing it. It doesn't go anywhere. I'm just compressing it, making it into like pushing it as small as I can get it, which is not very small. And then it always goes right back and it expands again. So I'm gonna put these vocabulary words to the side of this video. Compress, remember compress is to make it smaller. Pressure, system, tube, syringe, plunger, barrel. Okay, so this right here is the barrel, right? This right here is the plunger. This right here is the tube. And this, remember, this is the barrel, okay? I'm gonna put that to the side so that you can try to answer the focus question if you need to, okay? So now what we're gonna look, what happens when we push air into a smaller space? So when we do it, here's what I want you to think about. We actually compress the air. When we push it into smaller space, like I'm doing right there, it's called compressing the air. So when the air is compressed, it pushes back. It pushes back, so it's pushing it back. If you look, it's constantly, that's pressure, okay? For example, with one syringe, you can't push the plunger in all the way because air is trapped inside. The air pushes back on your hand. When you push the plunger into one syringe connected to the other syringe, the resulting pressure pushes the other plunger out. So when I'm doing this, the pressure from the air is going to push this one out. So that's what happens when you push air into a smaller space. It creates pressure and it compresses, but it can also push the other plunger out and creates that pressure, okay? So I'm gonna write the focus question on this side and you're gonna answer that focus question and then we will move on. I'll tell you what we're gonna do next. We're gonna look at air and water for our next investigation. I wonder what's gonna happen with that. This one will be interesting to try to tape. But I hope you guys are having fun and I love you and I miss you and I cannot wait to see you again. Bye.